This video is being sponsored by Disney Book Group.
Hello, spooky friends. Today I will be sharing with you all of the books I want to read this September. Are you ready to get your spooky on? Spooky friends, my name is Lexi and welcome back to the channel. It is lovely to see you here. Today is just going to be a cozy day where I tell you all about all of the books that I want to read this September. I have to tell you, my serotonin levels are at an all-time high because yesterday I finally decorated for autumn. It just feels right seeing my bookcases with cobweb. Can I get to some of my books? No, but it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. But before we get into the rest of the video, I would like to thank today's sponsor, which is Disney Book Group. Hi everyone! So I am so honored to be working with Disney Book Group again in their promotion for two different books that I would like to talk to you a little bit about. The very first book is going to be Paola Santiago and the Forest of Nightmares, and this is by Taylor K. Mejia. So this particular book is actually the sequel to the first book, which is Paola Santiago and the River of Tears. And I am so excited to talk to you about this particular book because it sounds perfect for the spooky season. I will go ahead and leave some information and a link for this book as well down in the description, but today I'm going to focus on this book.
The Paola Santiago series is one of many great reads published by Rick Riordan Presents. The series takes inspiration from Mexican legend, and in the first book, Paola and her friend Dante battle the legendary La Llorona. The sequel picks up 6 months later, and life is nothing like Pao expected.
She's barely speaking to her best friends, and what's worse, her mom has a totally annoying boyfriend. Pao has no one to tell that she's having nightmares again, this time set in a terrifying forest. Even more troubling, at their center is her estranged father, and when Dante's abuela falls mysteriously ill, it seems that the dad Pao never wanted just might be the key to healing the eccentric old woman. Both sound perfect for the spooky season because they both have monsters and ghosts. And if you know anything about me, you know that those are two buzzwords because it's quite apparent that I'm a little bit into the spooky stuff. I've also heard incredible things about the author Taylor K. Mejia, and actually this book series has already received several starred reviews from Kirkus, Publishers Weekly, and also Booklist. I can't wait to pick this up. I think it's gonna be perfect around spooky season, and it just sounds incredible. And then the next book that I have to share with you is Paua and the Soul Stealer by Lori M. Lee. Paua has a bit of a reputation for being a weirdo. A lonely 11-year-old Hmong girl with the unique ability to see spirits, she spends her summer days babysitting her little brother and playing with her best friend, a cat spirit no one else can see. One day, Paua accidentally untethers an angry spirit from the haunted bridge in her neighborhood. When her brother suddenly falls sick and can't be awoken, Paua fears that the bridge spirit has stolen his soul. She returns to the scene of the crime with her aunt's old shaman tools, hoping to confront the spirit. Instead, she summons a demon. I think one of the reasons why I'm most excited to pick this up is because, as you guys know, I've really been getting into Greek mythology this year, and it's been making me want to explore different types of mythology from around the world. And I love that this is actually exploring Hmong mythology because I don't know anything about that, and I think it's gonna be really interesting to learn about. I also happen to love that the main character has a spirit cat that only she can see, because as you know, I'm kind of obsessed with cats. So once again, a huge thank you to Disney Book Group for sending me both of these books. All of the details for both of these books will be down below in the description, and they are both available for purchase everywhere in hardback as well as audiobooks. If you would like to learn more, you can go ahead and click in all of the links in the description, and I think that's it for now. So let's go ahead and get back to the TBR. So as always, I have put all of these books into little mini categories, and the first category I have here are dark academia books. The first book is a book that I originally had on my August TBR, but I did not get to read it, and that is A Lesson in Vengeance, and this is by Victoria Lee. This is a YA atmospheric thriller, and I think it also has some fantasy elements in it as well. Also, this book is a dark academia book. What can I say? I like messy drama and tweed jackets. So this particular particular book is following our main protagonist, Felicity, and Felicity is going back to her boarding school to finish out, I think, her senior year. And her boarding school may or may not be haunted. But when she goes back, she meets a new girl named Ellie, and when they team up together, there seem to be certain events from the past that start to repeat themselves again. The next book I have here is All's Well, and this is by Mona Awad. This is an adult thriller, I believe, and really the only reason I picked this up is because I read Mona Awad's book Bunny last year, and Bunny hopped away with my heart. I cannot believe I just said that on the internet. Okay. So this particular book is following Miranda, and Miranda is putting on All's Well by Shakespeare, but she is convinced that the cast that she has casted is actually out to sabotage her, and instead they want to perform Macbeth. Then enter three mysterious benefactors who tell Miranda that they can make all of her worries go away, but at what cost? So that's kind of like all I know. I think that there might possibly be some surrealist elements in this. I think things are gonna get messy. I'm pretty sure murder is involved. It sounds like the perfect creepy thriller for September. And then the final dark academia book I have here is going to be Ace of Spades, and this is by Faridah, àbíké-íyímídé. Also, I did look up how to pronounce that, so hopefully I did okay. And this is going to be a YA, I think, thriller, I'm pretty sure. The way I'm kind of understanding the plot is it sort of feels like Gossip Girl, except instead of most of the plot happening at like Upper East Side elite parties, most of this is taking place in an elite preparatory school. And like the vibes of that are just immaculate. So this particular book is following Devon and Chiamaka. They are both students at this preparatory school who have just been elected to be prefects. And as soon as they become prefects, they immediately start getting anonymous text messages from a mysterious person named Ace who is threatening to blackmail them. But as these somewhat innocent pranks get more sinister and darker, Devon and Chiamaka have to team up to try to stop Ace before things get deadly. It just sounds so dramatic, you know? Like, I am so here for it. Next up, I always tried to read one classic a month. Last month, I think it was Virginia Woolf. This month, however, it's gonna be Frankenstein. So I will be reading Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, and this is technically the very first sci-fi that was ever created. So I don't know if you knew this, but Mary Shelley actually is responsible for creating the entire sci-fi genre. Anyways, so I feel like a lot of people are really familiar with this storyline. It is about a doctor or a scientist named Dr. Frankenstein, and he wants to see if he can somehow create life. In doing so, he creates, unfortunately, like a monster. I've heard that this book is actually a lot more sad than I think a lot of pop culture makes it out to be, so I am excited to read this. I also am excited to kind of see like what the real story is, but also I watched this incredible movie based on Mary Shelley's life, and I have been so interested in reading this book ever since watching that. So I think I might watch that again and then pick this up in September, and I very much can't wait to read all about Frankenstein. Okay, next up I have a little mini stack of like mysteries, and I don't really read a lot of cozy mysteries, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I recently devoured Knives Out, and I am obsessed with that movie. It was just so good. And ever since I have finished Knives Out, I have just been in this weird mood where all I want to read and watch are like whodunits and mysteries. So I have 3 books here that I'm hoping will satisfy that craving. The first one is going to be a middle grade, and that is The Strangers, and this is by Margaret Peterson Haddix. This book just sounds so creepy that like it had to go on this September spooky TBR. You know what I'm saying? This particular book is about Chess, Emma, and Finn, who are all siblings, and they have a really, really nice life with their mother. But then one day they see a news report about 3 missing children, all their exact same age, with their exact same birth date, and their exact same first names, who apparently were kidnapped a long, long time ago. And so these kids have to try to figure out who are these strangers on their television set, who are these kids and why are they so similar, and also, do they really know their own mother? It sounds so creepy, it sounds so cool, and it also sounds like the perfect mystery to read this September. The next one is a little bit more of a classic whodunit by our queen, Agatha Christie. That's right, I am reading Murder on the Orient Express. I have been wanting to read an Agatha Christie book for actual years, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm a little intimidated. I feel like this is a common thing. It has to be a common thing. When people have hyped up an author or a book series, I just get like nervous because what if I pick it up and I'm like the one person who doesn't like it? But nevertheless, I think I'm gonna like this and I'm really excited to start with Murder on the Orient Express. So it says, just after midnight, the famous Orient Express is stopped in its tracks by a snowdrift. By morning, the millionaire Samuel Edward Ratchet lies dead in his compartment, stabbed a dozen times, his door locked from the inside. One of the fellow passengers must be the murderer. So, I think this is just kind of like an isolated whodunit. We've got all of these people trapped on this train and we're trying to figure out who killed the dead guy. Yeah. And the last cozy mystery I have on this very short list of whodunits is going to be Hotel de Berry, and this is by Lesley Truffle. And this was a very, very kind gift from one of my subscribers, Francesca. So Francesca, thank you so much again for sending this to me. Obviously, I'm excited to read it because I'm putting it on my TBR. So the back of this book is pitching the story like the Grand Budapest Hotel meets the Great Gatsby. Every single time I read that, I just immediately want to start reading this like right away, because the Grand Budapest Hotel is one of my favorite movies of all time, and The Great Gatsby is one of my favorite books of all time. So in this particular novel, the staff of a hotel actually discovers a baby that has been mysteriously abandoned, and they decide to adopt this little girl. The hotel's owner, Daniel, decides to name this little girl after his favorite champagne brand, and then years and years later, when he is mysteriously murdered, Kat, his adopted daughter, is determined to try to figure out what exactly happened to him. And so with the help of the staff of the hotel, I think they are trying to crack what happened and who killed the owner of this hotel. And then rounding out the list, we have got, I think, 4 different fantasies. I get in such a fantasy reading mood every single fall. Every single autumn, I want all of the whimsy, all of the charm, all of the magic. And so I always gravitate more towards like magical books and fantasies, and this stack of books looks pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. So the very first book is actually a book that I am continuing on from last month. I didn't finish it, and that is When You Trap a Tiger, and this is by Tae Keller. This is a middle grade, and this I think has some fantasy elements, and also it has a lot of Korean folklore peppered in as well. This particular book is following Lily, and Lily, her big sister, and her mother are all moving in with her grandma. On their way to moving in with their grandmother, Lily sees a tiger that springs up in the road that no one else seems to see. She's afraid to tell her mom or her sister about this tiger because she doesn't want them to judge her, especially since they themselves can't see it. So instead she tells her grandma, and her grandma tells her, don't trust the tiger, and no matter what you do, don't make a deal with the tiger. So clearly we know that Lily is going to be making a deal with the tiger, and that's basically the premise. And so we're trying to figure out like who the tiger is and why this tiger is appearing to Lily. I have to tell you, I'm on page 100 of this book. I think it is beautiful so far. Tae Keller's writing is absolutely stunning, and I just think that it is so funny and charming and whimsical, and I can't wait to finish this. I think that this is going to be a 5-star middle grade though. It's just really, really good. The next fantasy is actually a book that I lost to. Let me try to explain a little bit. So one of my bestest friends on BookTube, Gavin, actually asked if I would want to participate in his TBR games. He has the coolest TBR games. He actually does something called Play Your TBR Right, and I watch it every single month. I will link down below this month's, but also a couple of the other months as well. You should totally check him out because he is just so funny. But he asked me if I would be willing to play Your TBR Right, which means I have to pick a book that I really want to read and then a book that I maybe don't want to read as much. And if I lose the game, then I have to read the book that I don't want to read as much. And I actually lost. So if you want to see the other book that I was wanting to read this month, and if you want to kind of see like my reactions, I will link that down below. It was really, really fun though. However, let me just say that, and I said this in the video too, it's not that I don't want to read this book, it's that I am so intimidated by this book. I tried reading this book earlier this year. I didn't tell anyone. I don't even think I put it on a TBR, and I did not understand what was happening. And I was also in grad school, so I was like, okay, I'll come back to this later when I have like more time to devote to trying to understand what's happening to the story. But ever since then, I've just been so intimidated by this book, and I'm also really intimidated by all of the hype surrounding this book. That book is going to be Piranesi, and this is by Susanna Clarke. I do actually want to read this, but I am so intimidated by this book. This particular book is following this person named Piranesi, and Piranesi lives in a house that is sort of like a maze. Apparently the house that Piranesi lives in is like never ending and it's always expanding. And then apparently there is somebody called the Other who also comes to visit Piranesi in this house and tries to help Piranesi discover some secret knowledge. That's all I know. I know it's very, very vague, but I have heard really, really wonderful things about this book. I've heard that the writing is lyrical and gorgeous. And I've also heard that this is for fans of Madeline Miller and also Neil Gaiman, and those are two of my favorite authors. So I'm nervous and I'm intimidated, but I am still excited to read this. Next up, we have a book that I also did not get a chance to start last month, so it's kind of like a little bit of a rollover, but just like I said last month, I do not expect to read all of this in 1 month. And to be honest, I probably think that it will take until November to finish this because it's very long. But that is another Susanna Clarke book, and that is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. This is about two magicians, kind of like in the early Victorian era of London, and I'm pretty sure that Jonathan Strange is Mr. Norrell's apprentice. He's kind of learning how to do magic under Mr. Norrell, but then they sort of become rivals and I believe enemies. I feel like it's gonna be perfect around this time of year. It's gonna be like historical fiction, fantasy, magicians, and I also think that it starts off in autumn. Let me see. Yes, it starts off in a library in autumn in 1806. So I can't wait to pick this up. Although I am really, really intimidated by this one as well because wow, there's a lot of pages in that. And then finally, the last book that I have to share with you is probably the book that I am most excited to read, and that is the second book in the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. This is The Well of Ascension. So I'm not gonna tell you what this book is about because it would definitely spoil the first book, but I will tell you a little bit about Mistborn Book 1. It follows Vin, who lives in this place where ash is always falling from the sky, and she is a thief. One day she is discovered by a guy named Kelsier who tells her that he believes she has magical abilities. In this world, you can actually perform magic if you are one of the like chosen magical people who has magic in their DNA. You can perform magic by ingesting different metals, and this is called allomancy. And usually people who have this ability can only do like one specific thing. However, occasionally there are born Mistborns. Think Avatar, think Divergent, think I can do absolutely everything. So she can actually do all of the different magics, and we're just kind of following her journey. We're following Vin's journey as she discovers how to create magic, and also her and Kelsier and this amazing crew of other thieves try to perform a heist. I said this in my last vlog, and I'm gonna say it again. I fully intend on reading one Brandon Sanderson book every single month until basically I have read everything that this person has ever written, because he is a genius. And that's that. And you guys, I think that that is every single book that I want to read this September. It's a little bit of an ambitious list, but every single fall, I just get so in the mood to read all the cozy, spooky books. And once again, a huge thank you to Disney Book Group for sponsoring this video. Paola, Santiago, and the Forest of Nightmares, and Paua and the Soul Stealer are both available now to purchase in hardcover as well as audiobooks. All of the information for these books are going to be listed down below in my description. So if you want to learn more about these books, I highly recommend that you go into the description and click on the links. And before I go, please let me know what book you want to read this September. What is your #1 most anticipated read this September? And also, if you want to comment but you don't know exactly what to comment, you can go ahead and leave me, oh my gosh, the ghost emoji. Please leave me the ghost emoji. I think that's my favorite emoji. But I think that's it for now, my spooky and cozy friends. So until next time, you guys, keep your head in the clouds and your heart in a book, and I will talk to you later. Stay spooky.